Hi, I'm Madison. I'm an artist and I decided to be an artist like a little over a year and a half ago. So I thought it could be fun to just show everything that I've painted since deciding to take art a little bit more seriously. This isn't like everything because some things were made as gifts for other people that I no longer have or were just kind of like things I was messing around with, but for the most part, this is pretty much everything significant and a few like random, just like fun doodles and stuff. I decided to become an artist because 2 years ago, the preschool I was working at actually closed down and I got laid off. So instead of immediately trying to find a new job in a similar field, I decided to take some time off, travel a little bit, take a break, take a breather, figure out what I wanted to do. And I ended up going to a lot of museums in a lot of different countries and just rekindling my love and fascination for art. So then about 6 months later, I decided to start experimenting with art again, and pretty soon after that I decided I wanted to really try and make a go of becoming a self-employed artist. I started off with watercolor because that was what I was most familiar with, so I'm going to show those paintings first, and from watercolor I transitioned into gouache, which is just a thicker watercolor, because ultimately I wanted to get to a place where I could oil paint, but I didn't know how to oil paint at the time, so I thought gouache would be a good gateway, so to speak. I think this was like one of the first things that I painted when I kind of got back into experimenting with things. A lot of things that I painted in the early days are in a sketchbook that I can't find. I haven't been able to find it for months and it's been driving me insane actually, because it's a very like cherished, beloved sketchbook of mine and I don't know where she is. But this was like an early thing. I wanted to try experimenting with like watercolor and oil pastel, and so I thought this was kind of fun. I then was experimenting with watercolor and just painted this off of an inspo photo from Pinterest, but I actually ended up really loving how this turned out, and this one is available on my website as a print. This was also something I did kind of just messing around. This was actually the first thing I ever painted with gouache, but I didn't really know how to use gouache, so I kind of like thinned it out to a point of being basically watercolor. I like loosely based this off of an inspo photo on Pinterest, but I kind of took it in my own direction. This one is also available on my website. This is Vintage Bloom. This is one of the first things that I painted with gouache, and it's based on a photo I took in Vondel Park in Amsterdam. I love Vondel Park so much, and it's where a lot of my like thinking and contemplation about my future and my future career goals and dreams happened, and so it feels very fitting. I don't have this one up on my website, but I do love her. I don't even really know what to say about this one. She's interesting. Definitely experimentation. Yeah, I don't know. This is like one of the first paintings I did in this like newer phase of like getting back into painting, where I was like, yeah, I actually might want to do this, and I do feel that I'm good at it. This is Mole Frites, also available on my website as prints. This is a painting I did based on a reference photo I took when I was in Paris, and this was like my actual meal that I was having. It's also just a meal I had a lot while I was traveling because I started my travels in Nice, and I feel like they do this pretty well. When I was in Paris, I was like missing that meal in Nice, and like specifically found a place to get mole frites at, and I dined alone and it was lovely, and I watched the sunset. This one, I think I was just like using up paintings probably from this color palette, and I just wanted to like do some abstract shapes and then go over it with a pen and kind of like draw what I saw. So this was in a way like a brain exercise of sorts. This is another one that's available on my website. I actually painted this off of a reference photo that I took when I was in Amsterdam. I was staying at this like little hotel that had a really nice shower, and I just loved the color of the shower tile and the way that my soap complemented it. This is one of my favorite paintings, and it's also pretty popular on my website. I think this one translates really well into prints and just looks really good. I feel like I specifically always love the bubbles on the bar of soap. I feel like that just like turned out so fun. This is Shower Niche. This one was kind of a silly one that I painted during like a 30-day art challenge that I was doing on TikTok, where I just was trying to like make art every day for 30 days. And I had taken this photo of me and my friend's Awala water bottle sitting on my friend's coffee table because I just like thought it looked funny, and then I decided to paint it. I painted this one, I think because I was thinking about if it would be feasible to one day like do a coloring book or something. My fridge just turned on. I don't know if you can hear that, but sorry if you can, I'm not getting a mic out. I was toying with the idea of making a coloring book because a lot of my friends really love coloring, and so I kind of like drew this out for myself to color in, and then I just ended up like watercolor painting it. This one I did not love at first, and I just like kept adding to and changing, and like it just like never felt good enough. But I feel like sometimes when that happens, I just have to like take a break from it and come back. And now it's like one of my favorite paintings that I've ever done. This is the heron. This photo was also taken in Vondel Park. It was actually my first day being in Amsterdam. I walked through this like willow tree, and that in and of itself was like such like a pretty like fairy tale moment. And then I looked up and there was this giant heron sitting on a branch in the water, and I was like, this is literally beautiful. I took so many photos and videos because I knew at that point that like this was going to be something that I wanted to paint, because I'd already kind of been toying with the idea of going and revisiting art as a hobby, but also potentially as a career. This just like felt like I had stepped into a painting, and I was like, I have to recreate that. And this also has been doing quite well on my website and amongst my family and friends. This is a pretty popular favorite. I love this one. I feel like whenever my friends get this one and I like see it up in their homes, it just like is such a good piece to like have on a wall and like tie in a lot of different colors in decor. I also painted this during my 30-day art challenge. I don't currently sell this one, but I have gotten it scanned to potentially sell in the future. It's actually based on a TikTok that I saw of this cat like stealing a fish out of a fisherman's bag, and I just thought that was like kind of fun and poetic, and I wanted to paint it. This one is on my website. I painted it with the rest of these paintings that were part of my first collection, but I actually held off on adding it to my website until my second collection because I just like didn't really feel like it fit in with the first collection as much. I've really grown to love this painting, and it's gotten a lot of love from the people in my life in a way that I just like wasn't expecting, because like I said, I held off on adding this to my first collection because I just like didn't see it belonging there. But I'm so glad that I ended up adding it to my second collection and that it's available for prints on my website, because it really just has grown on me. Like I like it so much more. I love the blurs, I love the colors, I love how the colors all blend in with each other. Fun fact, this car in the original reference photo that I took was actually a Tesla, but I hate Teslas with a passion, so I was not gonna put that in my art, and I ended up like changing it into just kind of a more like generic SUV type of vehicle. But this is Text When You're Home. Again, one of my favorites. I feel like I'm gonna say that about a lot of paintings, but that is one that is like definitely grown on me. This one I also painted more in line with that first batch of paintings that I was showing, but held off on adding to my website until its second collection. This is Exit 51st Street. If you're from the Bay Area or like live in Berkeley, you might be familiar with that exit. But this was something that I am very curious about how I could make it look different slash better with oil paints, because this was painted with gouache, and I feel like the glow off of the street lights was really hard for me to achieve with gouache, and I'd be really curious about how it would look with oil painting. I do love how it ended up turning out, but it took me a lot of like time and layers of paint to get to this place. I then went through and did a little series of making greeting cards, and I ended up with 4 of them that I liked enough to actually turn into greeting cards. Here's one of them, kind of inspired by my shower niche painting with just like the bathroom tile vibe, little happy birthday tile in the middle. This one I thought would be a good like open-ended, it could be a sympathy card, could be congratulations, could be happy birthday, happy Mother's Day, a lot of different things. So this one was kind of just meant to be a little bit more versatile. Pink is my favorite color, so I had to put a cutie pink birthday cake in there. This I think might be my favorite. I wanted to do like a wildflower, like meadow kind of happy birthday vibe. I ended up coming up with this, and I really love how it translated onto the actual birthday card. I actually have cards that I ended up making. I got these printed from Moo, I believe. Yeah, it's just called moo.com. So I had these printed off, and I loved how they turned out. Since I only did 4 paintings, I ended up adding in a couple of my just regular paintings and having those be turned into cards. But again, really love how these ended up turning out. I added a little blue border to this one because the sizing kind of didn't work out super perfectly, and I actually love how the blue border ended up turning out. Blue and orange is one of my favorite complementary color pairings, so I love this one. These are my greeting cards. They're in a set of 6. I don't have these available on my website right now because quite honestly I can't figure out how to get them on my website as like a print on demand set. So if anyone has anything like that kind of service that they know about, a print on demand website that will sell like packs of variety greeting cards, boxed up all cute and like ready to give to consumer, let me know, because I've been loosely, passively researching that over the last like year, and I haven't found anything that's quite like what I want it to be. So if anyone has any leads, would really love to know. This is my most recent gouache painting. I did this right before I released my second collection because I felt like it was missing something a little bit more specific about my hometown, which is Berkeley, California. And this is Telegraph Avenue, just like one of my favorite places to like browse and window shop and just exist and wander. And I felt like it needed to be in my second collection because that was basically the whole entire theme of it. Moving on from the gouache and watercolor paintings, in January of 2025, I started taking oil painting classes, and this was my first ever oil painting. I started it in the class, took the class for like 10 weeks. It was like 1 day a week and just kept chipping away at it. But this is, I ended up calling this Lost But Not Deserted. It's from a reference photo I took in the like San Diego mountains. I was camping there with some friends. I really love how this painting turned out. I feel like it's super detailed, which I kind of was not intending when I started it, but it kind of just took on a life of its own. I love the giant like blue sky. I just like love how this turned out. For it being my first ever oil painting, like I'm honestly really proud of it. And this one is available on my website with my second collection. And since I painted this on a bigger canvas than like these tiny little pieces of paper, it actually is available in a pretty big size too, which is cool to see this be like that big. Actually, at like the same time that I was painting this, I painted this. I was learning a lot of different techniques and stuff in my painting class, and I wanted to see if I could try painting alla prima, which means like all in one sitting. And it's a technique that I wasn't learning in class, but like conceptually I felt like I kind of understood, and it was cool to me to like try to just like get something done really quickly when I was taking like multiple weeks to finish that painting. So technically this is my first ever like completed oil painting because I did it like all in one sitting before that painting was finished. But this is also available on my website. It's called Beach Dreams. I actually really love how the clouds turned out, and I think it just like gives such a nice peaceful vibe. I feel like the main thing I learned painting this was to really just like work in sections and kind of like meeting in the middle, which I think ends up giving this like really nice soft dreamy effect. So I would kind of like place the white paint that I had mixed and then the blue and kind of just like tap until they met in the middle, and I feel like it created a really nice effect. A lot of people in my life were telling me to paint bigger because I just like was so used to painting small on like little 5x7 like watercolor papers or 6x8, like just like really tiny. So I decided to branch out and get these like bigger canvases. I actually forget what this even is. I think this is like 16x20 maybe. And I painted something very similar to the Beach Dreams painting, which is why this one is not available on my website, because I just feel like these are like a very similar vibe and I like this one better. I ended up calling this one Beach Blues. I posted a painting montage of it on my TikTok. I like this one. I don't love it. I don't really know in what order I painted the rest of these. This was my first like still life painting that I did. This was based on a reference photo taken in the same bathroom as shower niche. So you can tell like the bathroom tile is like a very similar color. I feel like it came off a little bit more pink in my like oil painting. This is like the same bathroom, which I think is fun because these are part of two different collections on my website, but it kind of has that like little invisible string that ties them together. I titled this one Counter Offer, just kind of a play on words with like counter, but I feel really proud of this painting. This was like one of my favorite paintings to paint, and just like each part of it coming to life brought me so much joy. I actually really love the reflections in the sinks. Like that was kind of something I did later in the painting, and I thought that like the glass would end up being kind of my like magnum opus of this painting, but I always like feel drawn to these little reflections. I don't know, I just think that they're really fun. I love all the shadows. I just love how everything looks together, and I love like a controlled like mess. Like I said, this one is available on my website. You can order it as a print, framed or unframed. This was another painting that I did alla prima. So I did this all in one sitting. I think it took me like 3 or 4 hours. And it's kind of like a worm's eye view of some branches, top of a building, the top of a fence. but this one also gives me kind of like a nice, serene, calm vibe. I love the effect of like the light coming through the leaves. That's like one of my favorite things to just like stare at in real life, is light coming through trees and leaves, and just like the specific shade of light green that it turns them. Ugh, I could stare at that forever, and that's why I had to paint it, so that I could stare at it forever. This one is also available on my website, and it's actually part of a little bundle if you want to get a few and save some money. I titled this one Looking Up because I was looking up when I saw this composition of things above me. A lot of times I'll just be like out and about living my life, and I'll see something that I just like think would make for a really cool painting, and so I'll like take a picture and bring it back to my studio. I also really love how this like shadow turned out. I think it looks super cool. This is the last painting I have to show. This one is called Blurred Roads. This was actually based on a reference photo I took on the road to the San Diego mountains, where the reference photo for this painting was taken. So this was kind of like my view out the car window as we were like speeding past, and I just thought it looked really cool with the blurred effect. I think it's actually a screenshot of like a video I was taking, so it has that like extra movement to it, and I just genuinely love how this one turned out. All of the colors mesh so perfectly together. It like scratches a bit of an itch in my brain, which is why I actually modeled my website. The like color scheme that it currently has is entirely based off of this painting. So it has a lot of like blues, orange, browns, and like this like cream color. And I just love this color palette so much. I love the blurred effect of it. I love the little light that's just barely starting to peek out over the mountains, because it was so early in the morning that this was sunrise. I am not usually a person who is awake for sunrise, so this was really magical to me, and I had to take a video of it. And then I'm so glad I did take a video of it, because it ended up becoming this painting, which is truly one of my favorites. This is my latest work in progress. It's been a work in progress for many, many months now. I think genuinely all I have to do is like clean up this edge a little bit and add his whiskers on that side, and then it's done. I just haven't done it for some reason. I should honestly just finish that right now. That was everything I've painted in the last year and a half since deciding to become an artist. If anything that I showed today caught your eye, it would mean the world to me if you would check out my website and see if you might want to bring it into your home. I'm gonna see if I can figure out how to make a discount code for my website for anyone watching this video. If my math is correct, I decided to become an artist about 20 months ago, so let's do 20% off. Let me know what your favorite painting I showed was. Also, if you have any feedback, comments, questions, suggestions, let me know. Would love to hear what you think in the comments. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.